Let's get settled. Your comments are welcome via social media platforms because we are streaming live on our platform. This afternoon, let's start off from the office of the Electoral Commission because the National Democratic Congress, the NDC, is in a meeting with the Electoral Commission over its concerns with the voters register following what the party says are discrepancies discovered during the exhibition last month. The party had raised concerns about the delay in providing the register to them ahead of the exercise. The EC has always maintained the role is credible.
The NPP does, NDC does, is that NDC has taken it further to also have a team that scrutinizes the processes and draw the attention of the Electoral Commission that, look, these are the differences we are having. How do we resolve it? And the Electoral Commission made a press statement to corroborate what the NDC has said and have also identified steps they are putting in place to resolve. That's the beauty of the electoral process. But if the NDC saw it and they decided to take it as a trump card, they will not reveal to anybody, but they will act on it, then that would have been difficult for us to have a resolution. Conflict and violence could be resolved when you know the challenge of parties. So I thank the NDC for always making their what they identify on the process public and demanding answers from the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission also resolving to provide antidote to whatever challenge they come up with. So the electoral process comes with electoral register compilation come in processes, compilation of the register, exhibition, and correction of the system. So this is one of the processes I think the Electoral Commission will adopt to make sure that it purges the register to have correct data ahead of the election.
From the perspective of CODEO, is everything okay? What key issues would you want to address before the election?
No, so in electoral processes, we can't have everything 100% okay, as I said. But the readiness of the stakeholder to resolve the challenges identified, it's what makes the process move forward. So yes, we've identified the challenges. The challenge itself, we are not happy that there's a challenge, but we are happy that there are steps in place to resolve it. Yeah, so the challenge was that there were discrepancies in the data, in the register, as compared to what the Electoral Commission gave and what the NDC also had. The Electoral Commission provided answer that there was a mistake on compiling previous transfer data and adding it to what we have here. And because the challenge has been identified, they are going to purge the register. And after they do the corrections on all identified challenges through the exhibition, we'll have a clear register. No, CODEO also has our resource. I was just reading the exhibition reports, and it highlighted some of these challenges. But in all these challenges that we highlight, they are not challenges that are infinite. They are not challenges that cannot be resolved. They are challenges. So that's why I said it's one thing identifying the challenges, and one thing presenting the challenge to the authority, appropriate authority to resolve, and one thing for the authority to accept to resolve it. So I'm happy that the challenges have been identified. That's first point. And I'm also happy that the Electoral Commission has accepted responsibility and provided some avenues or the steps that is taken to resolve the challenges. My message in Ghana is that elections come with challenges. We are not perfect in democracy as it is, but we will be perfect when together we lend credence and support to the institutions in charge to come up with the challenges and support them to implement a violent, free, and credible election. So I ask all stakeholders to have confidence and trust in the institutions, working be the police administration, the Electoral Commission, every institution that have duty to play on the electoral rule, we should give them the support. When we identify any challenges, we shouldn't take it as a manipulation. We should take it as a genuine mistake that when presented before the authority, they can resolve it. With that, we can move forward as a country.
So that was the head of programs with CODEO Ghana, Paul Mensah Brampa, also alluding to the fact that there are issues with the voters register that require some attention. The reason why the NDC wrote to the Electoral Commission, and this meeting is happening right now at the Office of the Electoral Commission, to come to some understanding on the way forward for the voters register. That will be the basis upon which voters can go through and vote in December. So what really is happening at the headquarters of the East? Let me take you live there because my colleague James Aveji is there for Joy News, and he joins me via, here for us to have this discussion. So James, what is happening now?
Elton, as we speak, the two parties, which is the National Democratic Congress as well as the Electoral Commission, are locked up in that meeting about an hour ago. As at 1:50, 1:55, the Director of Elections for the NDC, Dr. Omani Boam, as well as Dr. Tanko Computer, arrived here and made their way into the EC building. And as you know, the EC did not grant the presence of the media or in the live telecast that the NDC requested earlier. And so we have been prevented access into the premises or that meeting. But as we speak, the meeting is currently underway, an hour into that meeting. It is unclear when they would be closing or come to a consensus in that meeting and part ways with each other and what the agreement would be. But thankfully, we've been getting some insight into what exactly the demands of the NDC is. We know that earlier there is some key concerns, for instance, about the illegal transfer of voters from one constituency to the other. They made mention of the transfer of some 38 voters from Tamale South as well as Sagnerugu constituencies to Posiga. They also made the issue concern about how some disqualified voters, we know that during the registration process, the Electoral Commission, a party agent as well as any Ghanaian individual could contest the eligibility of someone who's registered to vote. Either the person is not a Ghanaian or he or she is not up to 18, the mandated age to register and vote in an election. The NDC says some voters' eligibility have been contested during the exhibition as well as the voting, the registration period. They were hoping that the EC would take those names off the voter register, but during the exhibition, those names were still on the voter register. And the third issue was about how some persons who have not actually registered to be special voters have found their names into the special voter register. And so those are the key issues they were raising, compounding to the irregularities they've been talking about before they went into that meeting, Elton.
And this statement or this information that you have, that we understand, is what the NDC is presenting to the Electoral Commission at this very important meeting. Do they give recommendations as to how this matter should be resolved?
Okay, Elton, so what I just shared with you is what we know before they went into the meeting. But we're just getting some info about the exact presentations they'll be making to the EC. For instance, they start with the fact that, they raise concerns about how the EC has been responding to their position, painting the picture that these are not issues to be of grave concern to the Electoral Commission, the political parties, as well as the ordinary voter. The NDC in that meeting is expected to take a strong opposition or rejection to that. Again, they raised the issue about the delayed release. They'll be raising issue, about the delayed release of the provisional voter register. You remember that before the exhibition exercise started, the NDC has been drumming home the fact that they needed to get the register at least a week or two before the exercise starts so that they look at it and go into the exhibition, know exactly what to expect. But we know I'm sure it was about a night or a day or two to the exhibition exercise before they were given that. They expected to raise objection or establish their displeasure about that. Another key issue they expected to raise is the excuses that the EC gave justifying the eligibility of the voter register. You remember the EC issued some 2 press releases. At the time, the NDC's concerns were raging about the irregularities. They say that as far as the Electoral Commission is concerned, they have a credible provisional voter register, and then followed by a subsequent release which talk about the fact that it is because of some of these irregularities that they are doing the exhibition so that this will be corrected.
Right.
The NDC is taking strong exception to those two positions raised. Based on this, they are saying that as we speak, the EC is finding it difficult to actually even justify the voter register they have. They say that as we speak, the EC has instituted some verification exercise across the regions and the districts. They provided some intercepted memo between the headquarters of the EC as well as the district and the regional offices. Let me take you through some of the key issues. The NDC says the EC is directing their regional and district officers to undertake in that. They say that, quote, the commission has directed that we account for each voter on the transfer list. This would enable us to track the differences in the transfer figures. Regional directors should take note of the following and direct the DEOs, the district electoral officers, to go accordingly. One, that document containing all the details of 2024 transfer voters for each region have been provided below as a guide. It shows details of transferred voters in each district. That DEOs should use the list of the transferred voters recorded at the district level to cross-check the one provided by the Electoral Commission head office, which means that the EC has sent figures of the registered voters they have at the headquarters of all the districts. They have sent those back to the district for the district officers to cross-check the numbers and see if they are just as it is or there are differences. Two, the DEOs should use the list of transferred voters recorded at the district level to cross-check that, and they should use the template provided to record the details of all transferred voters on the list from HQ that were not captured at the district level. If the district level finds any name at their point which is not on the AC headquarters list given, they would have to provide those details back to the Electoral Commission headquarters for action to be taken care of. And that memo, according to the NDC, was issued from the headquarters on the 1st of September, some 5-6 days ago, to the regional as well as district offices. The NDC is saying that based on this, the steps the EC is taking, they are rest assured that it justifies their positions that there are one, irregularities, and two, the EC itself is struggling to authenticate the exact number of registered voters we have and the illegibility of them, for which reason they have instituted these internal measures to clean up the figures. Now, the NDC is taking a position that for these matters to be laid to rest, they are demanding a forensic investigation into the current provisional voter register that we have now. They say that the forensic examination must go all the way to audit the exact number of voters we have on the register. Given the EC's admission of the mistakes, an independent forensic audit should be conducted. It must go to the extent of establishing the level of manipulation the voter register has gone through. We heard about the fact that some persons have been arrested with some BVR machines in different locations across the country. We heard of the eastern region, we heard of the central region as well.
Right, James. So
the forensic investigation, according to the NDC, must establish the extent of manipulation. Two, the system vulnerability of the Electoral Commission's voter roll as we move into the 2024 election. They say that when that is established, then every party to the elections, both the political parties, the CSOs, as well as the Electoral Commission, can come to a consensus on how they can agreeably tackle these situations and find answers to them. And that the Electoral Commission must come out with timely provisional register and a time frame in which all of this problem should be taken care of. And so, as far as we are concerned with the ears on the ground, this is a position they are going into that meeting with. Key is that there must be a forensic audit into the voter register. The EC must account, as they have always been saying, for the BVR, especially at the back of the arrests we have had from various parts of the country. So, Elton, those are the key issues they have been putting, will be putting to the EC as far as that discussion is concerned. Right,
James, thank you so much, but don't go yet because, I mean, they are making some serious demands in here, and this meeting is ongoing. They are also talking about impact of the mistakes on the elections. They are asking what is the potential impact of the admitted mistakes and errors by the Electoral Commission on the fairness of the upcoming elections. Will the mistakes compromise the integrity of the election results? Historical comparison. The EC says that they admitted in mistakes by referencing errors made by past commission. How does this comparison help address the current concerns? There's also timeline for correction. And these, the NDC believe that answering these questions through an independent forensic audit are essential for safeguarding the credibility of Ghana's electoral process and ensuring that the upcoming election reflect the true will of the suffering people of this country. Remember that the Electoral Commission held a news conference on Monday ahead of this meeting and then addressed some of the concerns that had been raised by the NDC, for example. Let's take a listen to what the EC Deputy Director said, Dr. Bosman Asare, and then we'll speak to the NDC as they engage the EC more on this very important subject.
Just after the Electoral Commission concluded a one-week voter exhibition exercise, the National Democratic Congress was up in arms. They insisted that the names of some voters had been transferred illegally and deliberately to favor the New Patriotic Party. In Ejumaku Enyan Esiam in the Central Region, the NDC alleged that the EC secretly transferred 3,000 plus voters into the constituency's voter register. Deputy Commissioner at the EC, Dr. Bosman Asare, says it was an honest mistake.
In the preparations towards the 2024 exhibition exercise, the absent voters list and the transferred voters list inadvertently included all transfers that had been done since 2020 when this register was first prepared. This has resulted in a higher than expected number of absent and transferred voters. This understandably may have caused some anxiety to our stakeholders, as exemplified by the press conference addressed by the NDC in the Ejumaku Enyan Esiam constituency of the Central Region. The Commission has corrected this anomaly and will share with all the political parties the corrected absent and transferred voters list.
In the Upper East Region, the Commission says it has suspended the Pusiga District Electoral Officer after concluding preliminary investigations into the alleged voter transfer.
The voters involved in the Tamale South and Sangneregu constituencies incident have denied taking part in a transfer exercise. What they have alluded to is that their voter ID cards were collected by one Haruna Muniru, ostensibly for the processing of a loan. Preliminary investigations by the Commission have revealed that voter transfers were indeed effected for 38 individuals, using the credentials of an Electoral Commission official. The Commission has suspended the Pusiga District Electoral Officer and has invited him to respond to the Commission's findings.
The Commission now says it has broadened its investigation to include all district electoral officers, fearing the issue may be widespread. They have also introduced fresh measures to ensure this does not happen again.
The Commission is currently investigating. While the Commission does not have any evidence to believe that this occurrence is widespread, we have instituted investigations to ascertain if similar incidents occurred elsewhere beyond the reported case in the Tamale South and Sagneregu constituencies. Any such transfers will be reversed. Following this incident, the Commission has introduced a liveliness check in the verification process, which is a feature designed to ensure that the biometric data being captured is from a live, present human being and not from a spoof source, such as photograph, which is what was done in this case. The liveliness check has since been built into the system to prevent any such future occurrence.
The Commission says, although the register is not foolproof, they insist that the voter register is credible and will always take steps to correct all anomalies. For Joy News, Michael Ashale.
Well, so you're welcome back. Let me end with James Aveji, but we'll go back to him when this meeting is over, so we'll get to understand the position of the Electoral Commission vis-a-vis what the NDC has put before them. So, James, I'm curious, is the NPP represented in this meeting?
Elton, I have not seen any NPP rep when the NDC arrived to make their way into the building. We've been here at about 1:30 p.m. And so monitoring activities, even before the 2 o'clock, we only saw the NDC reps getting into the premises for that meeting. I have not seen any NPP official here this afternoon.
The other political parties?
The other political parties as well, I have not seen any, including CODEO. Unsure whether they might have made their way in there before our arrival. I do not know, but it is only the NDC that I can confirm that have made their way here and into that meeting. All
right, thank you very much, James Abeje. We'll come back to you as and when there's development on this issue at the office of the Electoral Commission. Let me bring in the Deputy General Secretary of the party, Mustafa Gbambe, who joins us via Zoom. So, Mustafa, your initial demand was for a live telecast you didn't get, but you've managed to put your concerns before the Electoral Commission, as we have been told. Why are these matters so necessary? The AC says that this is not the first time mistakes have been identified, and it happens a lot. And for that reason, meeting to discuss this thing should be a normal occurrence and not the one that should endanger some kind of a tension between the two.
Well, to cherish listeners. Indeed, it's important that political parties are, as partners, will be reasonable with the Electoral Commission in advancing the cause of transparency, credibility, a free and fair electoral process. It is also important to state that the Electoral Commission has a responsibility to demonstrate high level of credibility, high level of integrity, high level of trust to be able to win stakeholders to itself. This is the first time that the EC has admitted that a certain district director has illegally transferred people without the knowledge of the headquarters. This is the first time. This is the first time we have seen names of people who claim to have been transferred, but yet, of course, you cannot find where they transfer the data, their names from. Look, there are a lot of ghost names on the voter register, including the classical fundamental discrepancies, further and better particulars we are presenting to the Electoral Commission. For me, you don't need the head of a commissioner to telecast a program. And so I was even shocked why the Electoral Commission does not want to give the public that level of transparency, that level of inclusion. What we are demanding is not to favor the NDC. It is, of course, in the interest of holding an election that when you declare a winner, Kenyan will associate with that win and say it reflects the mandate of the people. What is it that the Electoral Commission is hiding when it doesn't want to play fair with the public? And of course, I will always state this. The silence, the surprising and shocking silence of the MPP leave the issues much to be desired. And I can tell you, Elton, that the register as we hold it today is not fit for purpose. It's a document that have been fraudulently, illegally, criminally manipulated, and is far away from any understanding that these are mere errors, these are mere mistakes, and that we are correcting it. If we have corrected it, let us then exhibit some sort of transparency for the people to re-exhibit the register so that they will verify their names. Then we can be sure. Let us audit the systems so that we are sure that we are going into an election that is going to represent the will of the people. The MPP wants to break the eight, but they are running away when a discussion of an election is being held. I don't understand. And so, in all fairness, the NDC has nothing, no problem and no blood with the Electoral Commission, except that the current revelations demonstrate that the Electoral Commission has done away competence. The Electoral Commission has done away we call mistakes, but there are actors within the commission who are criminally minded, who are conspiring who are doing everything possible to shortchange the people of Ghana by fraudulently mismanaging figures, fraudulently tampering with the register as we have. And that the nation must rally around the clarion call for us to ensure that we restore credibility, we restore reality, we restore what represent the real values of the voters' register ahead of the election.
The register as we have it today is not fit for purpose. Then you are virtually saying that we should do away with it and possibly have another register. Is that your position?
That is not the position of the NDC. We believe that the Electoral Commission have done a good job. We've been able to register people, so the operational part of it is done. We have brought the data to the headquarters. The manipulation happened at the headquarters. We should go back and reverse that. Once we reverse and we clean the register, we are good to go. This is the NDC's call. Now we even get to know, perhaps the audit that we are calling for will help us reveal quite more discrepancies that will help all of us to have a transparent process. Who knows? If we don't audit, how are you going to be sure that the Pusiga electoral director, many of them do not exist around the electoral headquarters? The Wale Wale election was recently nullified at the back of electoral irregularities. This same election was supervised by the Electoral Commission. So if even MPP, who is in government, in their own primaries, can occur such phantom irregularities that can nullify an election, then you can tell what is happening to a national election. In Yendi, an Electoral Commission officer, interfering with the electoral process. We having most of these people within the commission who are going to hold the election. So indeed, the headquarters may not be aware of what is happening. Until we audit the process, we cannot all conclude that the register is clean. When the NDC is the one holding the evidence because we have done a lot of work, the Electoral Commission have come to admit that some of the fundamental issues we have raised are true, except to say that they are mistakes. And we say that they are not mistakes, they are deliberate and intentional act. If the Electoral Commission admits that some of the complaints we are making are true and factual, then of course, can't we audit the process?
And who should lead this process of auditing?
This is not the first time we are doing an audit. An audit was done ahead of 2016 election. Same can be done, just to give credibility. And I believe that when we sit in an IPAC, of course, where in all fairness, political parties are represented, in a round-table conversation, we can have an independent audit into the process just to make sure that we go into an election devoid of chaos, devoid of rancor, devoid of suspicion. Ghanaians need peace because in the last 7 years, they have been entangled with high rate of corruption. They've been entangled with hardship. They have suffered and suffocated enough. A little we can do to help them is to go into a peaceful election, set up a new government that will run the affairs of this country. And I believe that it's in the interest of the EC, the MPP, the NDC, and the President of Ghana for a peaceful election to occur.
But we just have, 92 days to the elections, basically 3 months. Do we have enough time on our hands to undertake this very important exercise ahead of the elections?
I don't think that the kind of audit we are talking about is an accounting audit. But I so believe that, again, if we sit in a round table with a conversation of an audit, I'm sure that we'll be able to find out something that will help all of us. The most important emphasis is that the current Provisional Voters Register at its stand is a manipulated document, criminally centered around an intention to rig and compromise him to favor a political party. And that political party is the one that is silenced all this while. MPP silence just shows their accomplice in this widespread crime. This fraudulent, criminal, calculated, and intentional act of manipulating the elections register. MPP is a beneficiary of it.
My final question before I let you go, you are also making the demand that, considering the numerous transfer anomalies, you are asking what specific measures will the EC institute to ensure special voters, security personnel, media, and others are not disenfranchised during the special votes, and how can we be assured of the transparency of the special voting process? We're also saying that recruitment of collation officers, when returning officers exist, and implications, collation officers can send unlawful collated results to the Regions for Regional Coalition. I mean, what is the relationship?
Yeah, the relationship is that when you have finished the voting and you are doing your coalition at the district level, the coalition officers, what will be their job? When we have returning officers, we need to be clear in terms of the roadmap, okay, so that we don't end up getting MPP, MPP people who are wearing MPP colors in singlets and wearing a smock representing coalition officers going to bring, illegal collated results into the system. All of these must be checked. The Electoral Commission has the responsibility to ensure that doubts are clarified.
All right.
Look, there's too much suspicion around the activities of the Electoral Commission. This is all because people have lost trust in the Electoral Commission. Most times we accuse the Electoral Commission, we find evidence that they are actually doing same. You see? So we must find a roadmap. What is the duty of a returning officer and what is the duty of a coalition officer? Did we have a new CI that ensures that we actually have coalition centers? If that is so, let's look at it. If that is not so, why are we talking about coalition officers here?
We wait for the outcome of the meeting. But thank you very much, Mustafa Ban, the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. And before we move away from the election headquarters, the countdown to the December 7th election is on, and parties are still aggressively campaigning either to take over the seat of government or to be maintained in power. The campaigns aren't without their funny moments. Prince Kwame Kuduga highlights some of them from the campaign trail in this report.
Which one is better, home used or brand new?
Minyanya president. Enti vote mamia. Mubenya brand new tier rubber president. Na omampenye da radia. Vote mamna. Na mwanya second hand failed president.
Na obise on the man obey tier rubber president. It is a president for. Na obinso ye to mana obey home second hand. I just used a driver. You see, ye second hander. And now ye adidada ye penisa. We say adidada so and experience a womb.
Then the 24-hour economy policy of the NDC has been up for discussion.
Hospitality industry, our restaurants, our discotheques, our nightclubs, our hotels, 24/7, 24 hours a day.
Running mate to the flag bearer of the governing NPP, Dr. Matthew Puku-Prempeh, says he has a stronger reason why the policy is not feasible. Now the droughts in the northern regions have caused fears of imminent food shortage, but no one knows the cause.
Bibia ayedin omo bad luck nti metimi aka say omo bad luck nti so afi insurance to.
Again, Dr. Bawumia is strongly defending his records as vice president, which he says qualifies him to be the next president.
Ejuma Amaye with the 33 policies about Ghana. 33. Oman Penny Dada, not even one. On Bakupre, only policy. Bakupre, only policy. Not one. Indian footballer. 33-0.
Some people today want to run for president, and so they have quickly pulled themselves back and are washing their hands and behaving as if they were not part of it. All of them, the day inside. When Vice President Bawumia was saying, our economic management team, we have Professor Jambafo, we have Alan Chiramatin, we have Honorable Osafo Mafo, we have Ken Oforiata. What a solid team. What a solid team, Elia.
But who exactly was this job for?
Economists here, Nehojo, Onyansafu Oba, Onyansafu Awanamusa, Oh, Munkaso Nyamia Shrine, yo, Nyamia Shrine. And I may catch him say, Ghana, Aya, Benya, Onya Safua, one Namusa.
As election day approaches, the fun and punches keep flying. Politics in Ghana is never boring after all. Prince Kwame Kudo guest report for John.
So the funny moments every Friday on Joy 99.7 FM, of course, on Joy News. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll tell you the air quality here in the Greater Accra region. The warning is that it might be reducing your years on earth by 2. You want to understand why when we come back. Stay right there. This is The Pulse. You're welcome back. This is The Pulse here on Joy News on a Friday afternoon. Now, if you run any business related to transport operations, such as commercial transport, business, fleet management, organizing, mechanic, or even a driving school or an institutional bus or transport such as school bus, pay attention because the National Road Safety Authority says they will be imposing a regulatory fine of up to 5,000 penalty units if you fail to register with them. It is the enforcement of provisions in the Legislative Instrument 2468 that mandates the authority to keep a register of institutions providing road transport and related services. Shortly, we'll be joined by the Director of Regulation, Inspection and Compliance at the NRSA for details of this. First, let's get to know those who will be affected by this, measure. And so what you have we'll bring you that graphics on your screens very shortly so that you understand who is affected by the implementation of this new LI that is seeking to get these vehicles registered with the National Road Safety Commission. So we have commercial road transport operators for passengers and for goods, ride-hailing transport companies, that's Uber, Bolt, and the rest, transport departments and units of ministries, departments, and agencies, that's MMDAs. These are government institutions, and they are also, affected by this regulation. There's also the transport department units of private companies, for example, Multimedia Group, institutional bus services, including school bus services, tie service centers, they are known as organizers, garages or vehicle maintenance centers. So road safety training service providers, my thinking is that these are driving schools, road safety related not-for-profit organizations, NGOs, road transport technology services providers. So LI 2468 is enforceable from March 30th, 2024. So already in session. Failure to register by any entity is liable to pay to the authority an administrative penalty of between 500 and 5,000 penalty units. This is for those who may fail compliance. This is what will awake you. Now let's get some understanding of this from Kwame Etuahene, Director of Regulation, Inspection and Compliance at the National Road Safety Authority. Kwame, a pleasure to have you here on The Pulse. Good afternoon.
Sure, my brother.
All right. So, what is the rationale behind this? There's a law, but why?
Well, thank you very much. I think I'm having difficulties putting on my video, but if you will indulge me, I still would want to proceed.
Sure, please.
Yeah, so when you look at the law that sets up the National Road Safety Authority, Act 992, it sets the authority up as the lead organization for road safety, regulatory authority for road transportation. So every institution providing transport or transport-related service must be known to the authority. In fact, that is the starting point for the authority's regulatory responsibility. So in 21, in LI 2468, which sets out to particularize the institutions, there are quite a number of registration and licensing regime. But Elton, to take us back,
yes,
I think one of the key considerations that influenced the new law was the fact that there were institutional gaps, in that the authority was used to doing a lot of advocacy and the likes, but the issue of institutional control, having to be able to keep a close eye on transport-related services, there was always and has always been a gap as far as the road sector is concerned. If you move to aviation, you have Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, you have maritime for that sector, but in the road sector, there was always a gap. So government took the trouble or the initiative to cure the gap by ensuring that the authority plays that responsibility. This exercise is to essentially get to know who is on transport space in order that we can influence their practices and ensure that existing standards are complied with. And that is why you have issued and repeated this notice over the period. So we are not dealing with just commercial transport operators.
Yes, of course, I see the list is quite broad, including even ministries, departments, and agencies. But the question really is, I mean, every vehicle in this country is registered, and the registration process happens at the DVLA. So this data is available. Why not just go take it instead of starting another data collection of your own?
No. So if I go to DVLA today, I want
to conversation.
DVLA has a data of drivers and vehicles, but as to where these drivers and vehicles work or where they operate, I mean, that data is not available. You get what I mean?
Yes.
So our focus is on the institutions. Of course, but the institutions work with the base data you refer to.
Right.
So if I come to multimedia may go to register their vehicle or may have certain controls that requires that their drivers may have the minimum licensing requirement. To be sure that the guy who runs transportation, vehicles and drivers under the care of multimedia coming onto our road space have the requisite competencies to exert and exercise that level of control as required.
Okay.
And the same applies for transport departments of all ministries, departments, and agencies, with the exception of DVLA and the police. Even our department. The same for those providing tie care services and even mechanic shops. Because over the years, part of the exposure experience we've had is that these guys providing transport-related services do not often have the competencies for what they profess to do.
Right.
So who, on the part of the public, takes the trouble to ensure that they meet these minimum safety conditions? I mean, these are gaps that have existed for quite a while, and the whole intent is to try and cure these gaps.
So this, from March, this started, but why are you emphasizing today? Is it a case that you are now really enforcing it?
No. So, Elton, the law came into force in 2023. And in keeping with practice, we cannot just begin to exact control. So, as part of the implementation process, we have been engaging in quite a number of dissemination actions. And so we think that, in fact, the law provides a transitional period that for the commercial transport operators, they all have up to March 2025 to come into compliance. All others would have to be in compliance from March this year. But again, we think that as part of the roll-up, we may not be able to get to the full throttle, but we want to deal with the implementation gradually. So, yes, we are starting with registration. At the appropriate time, we'll set timelines at which we'll begin to enforce what the law says we should do.
And there's punishment for those who fail or may fail to register.
Yes, I mean, that is the essence. If you have it doesn't serve any purpose. The intent is to be sure that those providing these services, the entities, have the requisite competencies to deliver these services that we think are of a public kind or are of a public nature. So yes, it's just like selling drugs. When you don't have the competency or the license to do so.
Right.
Road safety, road transportation, by large and far, is a public health concern. So we cannot just sit back and expect that business should continue to proceed as it has always been. So it's a measure to institute controls. And so if by the enforcement date, which will indicate over time, if entities fail to do what is required, would exact the necessary consequences as prescribed by law.
All right, Kwame, perhaps you may give me a breather. Let me get reaction to this measure that is, the law was passed in 2023. The Road Safety Authority is seeking to enforce it. The PRO, that's the Public Relations Officer with the GPRTU, Abbas Moro, joins me on phone. Mr. Moro, good afternoon and welcome to the Pulse.
Afternoon.
Also joining me is Wise Togbo, co-founder online ride-hailing group. Wise, good afternoon and welcome to the Pulse.
Good afternoon.
Right. So let me start with Mr. Abbas. So what is your reaction to this, this law that the Road Safety Authority is seeking to finally enforce?
Well, good afternoon to all viewers. I'm surprised where they want to start from. It looks like you are crying, you want to go to school, you have been admitted in a very good school, and you say you want to start from class 6. I believe you are going to mess up with everything. We have very good existing laws in our statutory books which are not working. By then they say they were in commission. Now you are in authority. And just that you had authority, you just forgotten about all these good laws which are not working. And they spoke about registering. Kindly ask them if they wanted to register free or at a fee. So it looks like they are interested in making money for themselves. And they are forgetting that by doing that, you are getting answers for a very serious economic question. Already we are trying, and you want us to register. We've all registered with DVLA. Our documents are there. We have documents indicating we have a qualified license. We have documents indicating this vehicle is allowed to commercial business. What kind of registration do they want? If they are not interested in making money, they should tell us if it is free, if it is not free.
Mr. Abbas, we'll get a response very soon for you. Because
no, secondly.
Yes, please go on.
As I said earlier on, we have very good existing laws which are not working. You see hawkers taking over all the streets in all the regional capitals. Are they, excuse my language, are they blind to those things? Pedestrian walkways have been taken over. Are they blind to all these things? What are they doing about that?
That for me, I'm sure, is the responsibility of the assemblies.
Not only the assembly, they are in authority. They are also in authority. Some of the vehicles have been overspeeding on the highway, resulting in road crashes. What have they done about it to make sure we all go by the prescribed, accepted speed limit? Okay. What are they doing about it? These are some of the good laws in our existing statutory book. And they said they haven't seen all these things. They will just jump by bringing in new things. I'm sorry, I'm disappointed.
All right, hold it there.
I'm highly disappointed.
Mr. Abbas, we'll get you a response very soon. Let me also pick the talks of Wise Togbo. Why? So what is your reaction to what the road safety is seeking to enforce?
Thank you very much, my brother. I think anytime a government institution want to make sure others adhere to the law, it is those who need to adhere to the law that I find wanting. As my brother from the GPRTU is saying, there are so many better and good policies that road safety would have put in place as an authority by now. I was going to ask them, since they are mentioned institutions and individuals that are going to be affected, have they considered filling station? Have they considered containers by the roadside? Have they considered them imported from wherever it's from? Because the road safety is not just the driver or the person taking the services or helping drivers go through this like organizer or fitter, which they makes, or at what extent they're looking for the best to show road safety is comply. So we, at this point, are going to find ourselves wanting. You go to a point evening and a shop closed down, an organizer shop is closed down because it has not been registered. These are the people are going to face. Meanwhile, the Registrar General Department had registered companies. DVL have registered all vehicles. All drivers also have been registered by DVL, acquiring genuine licenses. Digitalization in our country should have provided enough room for our institution, the Road Safety Authority, to maybe data from these institutions and make sure these registered companies or these individuals or these institutions are registered fully. Because there's no government institution with vehicles that are not registered DVLA. There's no ride-hailing driver who do not have a license or have not acquired a vehicle that have been registered for DVLA. I have trained over, let's say, 5,000 drivers. And I can tell you, in these 5,000 drivers, you cannot tell me you can't have over 4,500 of them all having genuine licenses. You cannot say you don't have their vehicles license from DVLA. In fact, all this data is available to them in this digital way. So getting us car owners, organizers, fitters to register again with them, it's a waste of time when Registrar General can provide the data of registered company and DVLA can register with them in this digitalization sector. So I think with that, this fine that they've even brought 3 days ago, it looks a bit not friendly at all. This era that we are in. So I want to plead with them if they can reconsider. However, it is the best point for our to make proper measures, to take proper measures, to ensure things are done in the right way. But when we always want to consider the benefit of the government or institutions or things like that, neglect the people who are going to suffer in the long run, it will help. Because I'm telling you, very soon after this law or implementation of this law, we will go to organizations that will be closed down. People, institutions, or shops that will want to help us, fitting shops, when we are broken down on the road, will not be available again. And there will be seen many vehicles parked by the roadside. So the problem we are going to face or have will be more than what they think we have already. Okay. If they want to start restriction.
So Wise and Ms. Abbas, you've made some very good points. Let me try and get a response for you. Kwame, you heard them. I don't know whether you have a response for them. First, let's start with whether this registration will come with a fee.
Well, let me clarify that this exercise is not at a fee. The announcements put out so far has not indicated that anybody is required to pay a penny or two for the exercise. Number two, institutions. Today, if I walk to the Ministry of Transport and request to find the number of airlines operating in Ghana, I could have a verifiable data on that.
Right.
It's quite a shame that in 2024, I may not be able to have such a data for the number of transport companies operating within our road space. So let's get it. We are not targeting individual drivers or vehicle owners who operate or come for training under WISE. And Abbas, we are not dealing with the individual drivers that come or operate under GPRTU as a banner. We are looking at the institutions providing services. To the argument that these institutions have, say, registration at the Registrar General, I'll say yes, today, if I really want to import drugs, again, let me use that analogy and even that which happens under the aviation sector. Right. But I must be known to the Food and Drugs Authority. Why is that so? Because the regulator, beyond the primary registration, you have the requisite competencies to provide a sort of service that you intend to so provide.
Right.
And that is the base. So we are not focusing on individual drivers and vehicle owners. That data, admittedly, is available at DVLA. But I'm saying that if I go to DVLA today, is the DVLA able to tell me that we have 100 transport companies in Ghana? That is not available. And that is exactly why this exercise is important.
So, for example, the organizer, it will not matter whether you are small or big, whether you have complicated machines or not. So long as you provide the service, you must register.
I missed you, Elton.
No, I was asking, for example, for the organizer, I'm asking whether it will not matter whether you are big or small, whether you have, the necessary tools to do your work or not. You simply have to register, so long as you provide the service.
Yes, Elton, out of a number of crash investigations we have carried out over the years, what is certain, for instance, is that in some cases, we trace these type bursts and blowouts out of the inefficiencies or lack of capacity of those who provide the service. Ordinarily, when you fire by an organizer by the streets, sometimes take the trouble to try come to you as a surprise that quite a lot of them, out of survival instincts, provide do so. Ask yourself that of all the public agencies in Ghana, who has the responsibility so to ensure that the guy filing by the roadside to provide such a critical service has a competency to do so? There has always been a gap.
Right.
So yes, you need to meet some minimum training requirement. You must have the equipment stock. The equipment stock must have been calibrated by the Ghana standards of your permit. To Pastor Wise, a lot of these vulcanizers, for instance, do not even talks about at the Registrar General's Department. So that's a real intent and purpose for this exercise. And at all material times, it is to serve the public good. I mean, those of us joining buses as passengers, those of us having to access these services as vehicle owners, and so on and so forth. And so, as part of the implementation process, I mean, I cannot begin to exact control when I do not even have the base information as to who is providing what.
Right.
And to address quickly the issue raised by Abbas, you see, safety is a gamut of issues, and we are dealing with every facet of it. Over the last year, we have carried out actions that are targeted at pedestrian obstructions, for instance. And we have different communication and rollout plan for that sector. What we are doing now is to try to account for the various institutions providing transport-related services within the sector. And yes, when we get to know these institutions, that is when we are able to enforce the laws on speed limiters that my very good friend Abbas talks about. So if I don't know how many institutions are running transportation, how am I able to even enforce the basic requirements that are required under the law? Today, a lot of them, I mean, what they call floating drivers of floating vehicles, they do not belong to any transport company or transport union. And the starting point for trying to regularize that space is to, first of all, get to understand who is providing this service, at which corridors or on which corridors, in order that when you have certain internal control measures that will influence the road user experience and passenger experience, you may be able to implement them through these same safety leaders or leaders of these transport companies. So that is the intent. The intent is not targeted at the individual vehicle owners that have acquired license or have had their vehicles registered by the DVLA. Let me give you a very quick example, for instance. If I have a commercial vehicle, I visit DVLA twice a year for purposes of roadworthiness certification. Question is, when I haven't visited DVLA, who has the primary responsibility to ensure that the vehicle remains continuously or consistently fit for purpose. Those are operational matters. And those matters can be cured to a greater extent when we have information on which entities or unions or companies are providing these services and what sort of time between the year or the life of your license or permits they are doing what is required to keep the public safe. That is the intent.
All right, thank you so much. Kwame Atuahene, Director of Regulation, Inspection and Compliance at the National Road Safety Authority. We also heard the PR of GPRT, Abasi Moro, and Wise Togbo, with co-founder online ride-hailing groups, and they had concerns responded to. I'm just hoping that this is just the beginning of this discussion. Hopefully in the days to follow, we'll delve more into the LI and what exactly it seeks to do. This is a pause here on Jones. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about the air in Ghana and why that air probably is reducing your lifespan. Stay right there. But so it's another weekend, and before you go home, just have something at the back of your mind so that you can inform the way you respond to certain issues, especially the air around you. Now, the air we breathe is slowly killing us, and we barely notice. Every breath filled with invisible fine dust particles chips away at our health. Municipalities across the Greater Accra have pledged to reduce air pollution by 30% by 2023. 2023 is over, but the clock is ticking. Now, this silent menace is now the world's greatest external risk to human health, causing more harm than smoking or even car crashes. And we put together these figures to illustrate the point I'm trying to make this afternoon. So, for example, 28,000 Ghanaians die prematurely every year as a result of air pollution. And this you may not know. By the time you get to hospital, it will become too late. And so the statistics as we have it, according to the World Health Organization, 28,000 Ghanaians die prematurely every year as a result of air pollution. And annual average, that's PM2 concentration, that's the quality in Ghana, is 11 times higher than WHO concentration level. So in terms of what is acceptable, the quality of air and the pollution that is acceptable, Ghana is 11 times higher than what the WHO recommends for all member countries. Also, 40% of Accra air pollution concentration are attributed to road transport. And other causes of air pollution in Accra, we have biomass fuel, industrial and power plant emissions, and soil dust. And these are all, records from the World Health Organization concentrating on the situation in Ghana. So air pollution reduces average person's life expectancy by 1.9%, almost 2%, almost 2 years. So the air you are breathing this afternoon could be reducing your lifespan. It's not about the food you eat or whatever, but the air itself is reducing you by 2 years. So as we mark the International Day of Clean Air for Blue Skies, we confront a harsh truth. Our fight against air pollution is only just beginning, and the stakes have never been higher. This afternoon, we have assembled great minds within that space to speak on air pollution. My guest this afternoon is Desmond Appiah. He's a country lead, Clean Air Fund. We also have Kelvin Yeboah, Project Coordinator, Ghana Air Quality and Brief Accra Project. And of course, Krista Hasenkopf, Director, Clean Air Program at the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago. And these are, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the pause here on Joy News. I didn't hear you. If you can unmute for me so that I can hear you very well.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you.
Right, so let me start with, from the university, let me start from Chicago. And let's speak to, let me understand, Krista. So Krista, you've put together this study. I'm wondering if you can tell us the outcome of this study to form the basis of our discussion.
Yeah, so last month, as you mentioned, we released our annual report that details how many years of life a person could gain if the air quality were to meet the WHO guidelines for particulate pollution. So smoke and dust, essentially, that's small enough to cause harm to humans. And the idea of that study is to motivate and bring awareness to how air pollution affects us, and in a way that's really relevant to every individual, which is your lifespan. And so our hope is that by capturing this metric and comparing it to other diseases and risk factors, that policymakers can be better informed about prioritizing air pollution as an issue. Because as you pointed out, globally, it does cause more deaths each year than HIV, AIDS, and malaria combined. And I'd also say from our study, if you look at West and Central Africa as a whole, we find that in some regions, particulate pollution is cutting life expectancy by as much as 5.1 years. And again, that's much higher than in the region HIV, AIDS, malaria, unsafe water, sanitation, and hand washing are causing.
Right. So that's one. I mean, let's relate to this matter as it is in Ghana. I mean, this morning, and it's something that I've observed. I mean, I have taken a personal responsibility to ensure that anytime I'm driving, I roll up, because sometimes the car you are following and the emission, the thick black smoke that is coming out of the vehicle, I mean, simply tells you that this is danger in front of you. So I've made it a point, as soon as I hit the road, no matter the condition I find myself, I have to roll up. This is a Ghanaian situation. Unfortunately, we don't have any law that says that you should meet this level, this threshold of vehicle emission before your car can pass the car worthiness test at the DVLA. So we have all manner of vehicles plying our roads, polluting the air, and then making life unbearable for those who are driving or standing by. Tell us the Ghanaian situation.
Thank you very much, Elton. And it's great that Joy FM is really taking a lead in discussing air pollution and its impacts. Interestingly, in Ghana, we have standards on vehicle emission standards. We do have it. What the challenge is that it is not mandatory. And so even though when we go for our roadworthy tests, they've been collecting some data on it, the fact that the vehicle did not meet that standard does not mean that the vehicle does not pass. And it is one of the conversations that we've been having with EPA and the other stakeholders like DVLA to be able to get to the stage where it becomes mandatory. And that is really the big difference. So in other jurisdictions, the vehicle emission standard is mandatory. If you don't meet that, your vehicle will not get the roadworthy ticket to be able to ply the roads. And so I think that is important that we kind of contrast that. And then again, it's very important to highlight that.
But isn't it interesting that these vehicles have, the roadworthy certificate embossed on it, yet from a layman point of view and from layman eyes, you can clearly tell that this thick smoke coming from the exhaust of this vehicle shouldn't pass it as roadworthy to use our roads, knowing very well the danger this vehicle is, is putting Ghanaians in.
Yes, and that is part of why the conversations that are going on is extremely important, because then we have to get to the point where we, the citizens, are demanding that it is not just nice to have a standard, but that it should be enforced. And it kind of gives a bit of oomph to the powers that be to be able to push through it. I mean, I think I will just take a little digression and mention, we all heard the brouhaha that came up with the emissions levy.
Right.
And part of the tools that can be used to be able to address this is a levy. I mean, I have been on record to have said that I'm not so sure how we went about the introduction of an emissions levy was more for reduction in vehicle pollution, but rather seemed to be more for revenue generation. So it's a different topic that I think we can have. But back to the point about having the standard is one thing, having a mandatory standard is another thing. All vehicles in Ghana have to undergo yearly tests. In the case of even commercial vehicles and some size of vehicles, they do those tests twice in a year. to check the brakes, make sure the lights are right, and the rest. The point is, you can't have a standard as we have, but if you don't make it mandatory or enforce it, then it's as good as not even having a standard at all. And that is the transition that I think we have to get to. And our standard that we have is already about 5 years and is due for renewal or review. So I think there's opportunity there. We should also remember that for some years now, nobody has been talking about air pollution. And it is now that this topic is becoming more of something that we know we have to pay attention to, thanks to some of the work like what Krista and the group have done to be able to bring it home to the ground, that if you're living in Ghana, Togo, Benin, across to Central Africa, you're already losing about 5 years of your life because of the level of the pollution. And so this is a journey. It is a conversation we need to continuously have. We need to bring it to the fore, to the point that the regulators have no option but to ensure that it is made mandatory, that the laws are strong and biting, so that people do not just take it for granted. I sometimes also, like you, follow vehicles, and then you can see the smoke billowing out of it, especially even the big trucks.
Yes.
And for you, and
most commercial vehicles.
Yes, that we can roll up, maybe because we have air conditioner in the car. But what about our colleagues that maybe they're standing by the roadside, spending all day, maybe sitting in the trotro or the taxis, the impact that this pollution may be having on them. And so bringing this kind of information, increasing the education and the awareness is very important. It helps also to empower. We are getting more data in relation to the status quo now. And we should bear in mind, when we have more data, it gives us a strong basis on the next steps that we have to be taking.
Absolutely.
When you spoke with a road safety person earlier, you were talking about safety of vehicles. And I think usually when you talk about safety, the mind just gets to road crashes and the like. But exposure to emission fumes from vehicles, from dust in the atmosphere, for passengers in the cars, for the drivers, the mates, all those things are part of the safety concerns that we should be having. So I hope that the Road Safety Authority would also be joining in this call to ensure the implementation and enforcement of the emission standards that we have.
In fact, they have to. They have to, and it's very important. Let me hold you there. I'll come back to you, but let me bring in Kelvin Yeboah, Project Coordinator, Ghana Air Quality and Brief Accra Project. So, Kelvin, tell me, let's look at the Accra situation. Everything is concentrated here in the capital, Accra. So you have almost all the big industries in Accra. I'm sure today, if I should take you on the Achimota Franco Road, we will not be able to stand the quality of air there because of the construction works ongoing there. From where you sit and looking at the air that we breathe in Accra, will you say that it is bad or getting worse?
Okay, thank you, Elton. From where I sit, I would say the air quality in Accra is getting worse. Through the initiative and then the efforts of my project lead, Professor Kofi Amega, and then funding from Clean Air Fund, we've been able to set up a monitoring network. So now we have about 60 plus of low-cost air quality sensors in Accra. So now we know the levels. Just like Mr. Pia said, we didn't know the levels some time ago, but now we have data. So with this Breathe Accra project and then the Ghana Urban Air Quality Project, we are trying to bridge the data gap. And it will amaze you that we have a year's data, and then we've been able to identify about 8 air pollution hotspots in Accra.
In Accra alone?
Including Aboboshi Market, Nima Market, Madina Zongo Junction, La Paz, Choco. And the most amazing thing is that we talk about the WHO levels. Now, our data shows that these areas have about 10 times, up to 10 times, especially for Aboboshi Market. That's about 10 times the levels of WHO guidelines.
In fact, Aboboshi is no surprise. Aboboshi is no surprise because Aboboshi is described as the headquarters of electronic waste.
Yeah. So the air quality in Accra is actually getting worse. But then, just like Mr. Appiah said, education and awareness, we've been doing a whole lot of education, risk communication, and then the most important thing we want to do is that we want to make the data openly accessible to the public, so that we believe that when they know about the levels as well as the impacts, it will be able to cause behavioral change, and then we will see an improvement in the air quality.
What about beyond Accra? What is the situation beyond Accra?
The situation beyond Accra is nothing different. Just that with the pressure in Accra and then the landscape in Accra, the activities going on in Accra, the levels are a bit higher than those in the other areas. We actually have other sensors across the metropolitan areas in Ghana. So for instance, when you go to Kaswa, you go to Tamale, you go to Kumasi, we have sensors there.
Right.
And even close to you, Ebri, you'll be able to compare the levels in Ebri to Accra, and then you know that Accra is really, really, really getting worse in terms of the air quality.
Right. Let me go to Krista. So, Krista, I mean, the research that you did, I don't know whether you touched on the health implications and then the possible way out of this situation.
Yeah, so in general, our report mainly focuses on the trends that air pollution trends that you see across the world, down from the country level all the way down to, say, a district level. And we don't have solutions. We don't think it's necessarily our place with where we sit, very far away from most places we're analyzing, to do that. But I will say, the work that Kelvin is doing and his team with Breathe Accra, that's exactly what we see helping solve air pollution in cities and countries across the world. This initial bit of data that actually starts getting air pollution on the public's radar, on the policy radar, that constant drumbeat of having that data, not a one-time thing, not data that's there for a day and then stops, but this year on year on year data. There's actual research that shows that having that availability of that data publicly can lead to clean air in a variety of cities across the world. The key is having that data be there reliably and for it to be public. So it's, again, often these projects that start seeding data that where you eventually see success. And I have to say Ghana has become, in my view, a place that many other countries and neighbors are looking towards to see how they can replicate the data infrastructure and the expertise that Ghana is starting to have on air pollution in the region. And I think that situates the country in a very, very interesting way.
What should be the way out for you?
I mean, the thing with air pollution is there's often not a silver bullet. What it really takes is a lot of local sustained will over many years. You know, I look at China, and China's a unique country in many, many ways. But as many of us know, it had extreme success when it comes to reducing its pollution levels over the past 10 years. It's almost reduced their pollution levels by half, which is phenomenal. Of course, they have a certain amount of resources and a certain government style. And all that being said, I think why they've also had success is because it's been a political priority and a focus. And I think where you have that successful is because at the end of the day, air pollution doesn't require completely new technology or rocket science to solve. We know the technology, we know the policies that have worked in place after place. It's really about social and political will.
All right. Let me bring in again Desmond. And Desmond, I mean, let's look at government response to this danger that we are talking about, and whether you think that there is low-level political will to get the things done rightly. Because I remember I spoke, this about a year or two ago, I spoke to the Ghana Medical Association, and they had concerns about some of the things that they were seeing at the hospital, where people came in with ailments that could be traced to the quality of air that they were exposed to, because those people, from the history that they got from them, were not smokers. And so what they were dealing with had more to do with the air that they were exposed to. And they have sent a lot of people to their graves. So the GMA warned that something must be done about it. But from where you sit, Is the political will not, not coming in the reason why the situation appears to be getting out of hand?
I think there are a number of reasons. Political will, I would say that the definition can be a little ambiguous. In Ghana, we are known around the world that we have political will, especially when it comes to issues like air pollution. What I think we may be lacking is the political will to act, and that is a whole different ballgame. And it's very important that we're able to separate that, because the political class gets a little offended, and I think they should, when we say there's no political will. When they have made the commitment, they have, but the bit of putting the resources to ensure that there's action to address the issues, I think that is where there's a challenge. Again, there is also a gap in understanding, and I will say this at all levels. We're in Western region for an air quality program, and the regional minister said, you should take time to also educate the political class. And he was right, because a lot of programs target the technocrats and not the political class, for them to understand really what it means or what the causes are and the impact, the economic impact. The World Bank says it's costing Ghana about $2.5 billion a year in air pollution-related diseases. If you look at all the districts in Accra that we have census, and we have them in about 13 districts, and their comparison to the hospital reporting or disease rates, you would see that air pollution-related diseases are usually the top part of the top three.
Right.
Even if you look at the whole country, Ghana, there's a lot of research and reports from WHO showing that in the past 10 years, air pollution-related diseases as causes of death has moved from like number 8 or number 9 to about number 2 and number 3 consistently in the past few years. And so if the policymakers have this understanding, and we all have a part to play in ensuring that they have that understanding, if the citizens also have an appreciation of what it means to the country and to they themselves, the discomfort, the cost to your pocket, going to hospitals, back and forth, losing work, if we understand what it also means to us, there are a lot of things that we can also be doing. And we are also working with a group to look at the bylaws of the 13 district assemblies. Looking at the bylaws, because the assemblies are also limited by the bylaws that they have in how they can even enforce. But I think it's very encouraging that out of the Breathe Accra project that is going on, a number of the assemblies that are part of it, as their understanding has improved, have included air quality related sensitization in their outreach that they are doing. In fact, 5 of them have been able to take companies and individuals that are causing some pollution in their jurisdiction to court. And so the more we build awareness, the more people understand what it means, the more we appreciate our own contribution to the challenge that we are facing. We think that there will be some movement. But definitely we have to do more on the pressure.
All right. So we are wrapping up. So let me bring in Kelvin, and perhaps if Desmond has a contribution, I'll allow, and then I'll speak to Krista on her last words as we bring this discussion to a close. So Kelvin, I mean, there's been calls. I mean, this week, starting last week, from everybody, and this afternoon I read a statement jointly signed by the Ghana Registered Association, the Ghana Medical Association, the pharmacists, and of course everybody is demanding that our water bodies are declared, a security zone. There should be a state of emergency declared in the mining areas to deal with the menace illegal mining is causing to the environment and water bodies. Do you think that perhaps it's about time we dedicate same attention to air quality?
Yes, I believe it's about time we do same, because just like water, air is also a very basic necessity for life. So if the air that we are breathing is becoming bad, I think it's in the best way, or it's in line if we also awarded some attention to it. Now, we've been doing a whole lot of work in terms of empowering individuals and the public to take action to improve air quality. Now, Mr. Appiah mentioned that the best way is for behavioral change. Yeah. So we educate street vendors, we educate drivers, and we even had a boot camp not recently, recently for assembly members from Accra in Cape Coast here, where we took them through air pollution and then the effects. Now we, in a vision to make air quality data openly accessible to the public, we have a website where individuals or the public can go, GhanaAQ.org, and then the breatheaccra.org.
Right.
Where you can get real-time air quality data on the levels of air pollution across the metropolitan areas in Ghana. We are in the process of developing an app. The app very soon will launch it to be available on the Google Play Store and then App Store, where wherever you are, you can get real-time air quality levels, and then you'll be able to protect yourself against the impacts of air pollution.
All right, Desmond, same question. Do you think perhaps the attention we're giving to Galamsey, we should do same for air quality in Accra, in the country?
Yes, and I think in the country, Galamsey is a big menace. We are glad that the media coalition have made it the center of the conversation. We have perused the manifestos of the three manifestos that have come out, and
right.
We are not seeing
any seriousness to this matter.
Yes, we are not seeing the air pollution getting the attention that it deserves. It also tells us that we still have a lot of work to do to be able to highlight what it is, the causes, the sources, the implications on our economic development. And pretty soon, the Clean Air Fund will be hosting a political dialogue on this particular issue so that we bring it to the fore for the political class to become more conscious of the real information out there, where we stand, the levels of deaths and the opportunities that we can be undertaking. We took a cue from Kelvin's group, and we are hosting a boot camp for select chief executives in Accra and all the coordinating directors from Accra next week, to be able to take them through the air pollution sources, causes, the impact. And we are hoping also to be engaging in other regions in this direction.
Right.
EPA yesterday launched the revised air quality management plan, which covers the whole of Greater Accra region. We are working to develop air quality action plans based on that for Accra. And then we are going to do something for Temo as well, so that we continuously fight the menace.
Let me bring in Krista to give her the final bite on this discussion. Krista, so you are far away from Ghana, Chicago to be precise. We are talking about a Ghanaian problem. What will be your parting words?
I would just say I really do believe Ghana has proven an example of how air quality data can start building the momentum. It's not all the way there yet, but there's a lot of progress and a lot of momentum, and I hope, I would love to see Ghana leverage that momentum to build policy, more policy, enforceable policy to make the air clean.
All right, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Krista Hasenkopf, Director, Clean Air Program at the Energy Policy Institute at the University of Chicago. Kelvin Yabua, Project Coordinator, Ghana Air Quality and Brief Accra Project. And Desmond Appiah, Country Lead, Clean Air Fund. I can now take you live to the Electoral Commission because the IPAC meeting just ended and the NDC is addressing the media.
They are saying that they've corrected some doctor who created a complication. If that doctor says, I'm fixing the problem, you may fix it, but how do we trust that you have fixed it? Transparent, peaceful elections, fair elections must be anchored in trust. And that trust will only be based on the evidence that the register is fit for purpose. As we speak now, the voters' register is unfit for purpose.
Doc, the Electoral Commission accepts your request for the forensic audit.
First, what are the key issues you've put before them today?
The key issues that we've put before the Electoral Commission emanate from: 1, voters in the 2023 register who have been deleted from the 2024 register. 1. 2, voters transferred to different polling stations, okay, but the voters are not in the absent list. When you look at the absent list means that this voter used to vote here, but now the voter doesn't vote. Okay? What it means is that it will have voters who transferred, and voters, if you are guessing right, and voters who are going to vote as special voters, media people, security personnel, EC officers. So when you get on the special voters list, or when you transfer out of the place, your name must be on the absent list. Otherwise, do you know what can happen? If your name is still on the register and your name is not on the absent list, it means that you can vote as a special voter and return on December 7 to vote. They will tell you BVD can arrest the person. Take it from me, it's a human being that sets the BVD. Manipulations can happen.
How many persons are we talking about?
In terms of that is, so far, what we have identified, 2,094. The first I category is 3,957. There's a third I category. Previous transfers illegally added to 2024 transfers. And guess what? 243,540.
What does that mean?
What it means is that people who transferred their votes in the previous election. So, you know, we have the 2024 register that we are looking at is made up of the 2020 register, the 2023 limited registration, and the 2024 limited registration and mop-up registration. Okay. So, if somebody transferred the vote to vote in 2020, that person's name must be off the transfer list for 2024 because transfer is permanent. If I transfer my vote from A to B, my name is now permanent on constituency B. So if the following election you are compiling transfer list, my name should not be on the transfer list. What has happened is that we have over 200,000, and that is what we are running. That is what that has revealed so far. 243,540 transfers from previous transfers, not 2024 transfers. And that is
previous years up to 2023.
Dangerous. Yes. 2020, yes. Terrible. There is another one within this same transfer, and I call it a subtype of this transfer, is repetition, where this person who should not be on the transfer list, the name is on the transfer list, may be Adwoa Mansa on the transfer list. And then Adwoa Mansa's name on the transfer list is also repeated on the transfer list. So you will count the same Adwoa Mansa's name not once, but maybe twice or three times. That is a subtype of the same problem. There is also another one, unidentifiable voter transfer parts, about 15,000. They are transfers, but we don't know where they are transferring from. When you transfer, the parts must be known. That is also about 50.
But you were able to know where they've been transferred to?
Yes, where they've been transferred to, but the parts cannot be traced. What that means is that if the biometric voter registration kits that were stolen from this edifice, and you know, media people, were you allowed to enter? No. Did you see the layers of security that we went through, including body scan for metals and everything? But the EC says that biometric voter registration laptops could be stolen from this edifice. Okay?
Which is impossible.
If people were able to steal that, okay, our worry is that if transfer parts cannot be identified, then it is possible someone can use such equipment to register people and then transfer them onto a constituency without the transfer path being identified.
After you've presented all of this evidence to the EC.
Let me talk about that last component. That last component we are referring to is what we call corrupt files. My brother, we came for the files from here. After a series of disappointments, eventually they gave the files to us hours before the exhibition exercise. What happened? In 2nd D in particular, and some other places, the file is corrupt, and we have shared our PowerPoint presentations. You can show them to your viewers. The file is corrupt, such that you don't find details of people, photographs, and their specific names on the file. Can you imagine if on D-Day, the final register that they would derive from all this exercise, if we don't conduct a forensic audit, if there are other hidden files like that, and then it is printed, and people don't examine the register, on D-Day, you get to the polling station, and your name is not on it. Do you know the answer the ECI provided to that? They say, oh, it is possible to write manually the names of that is the Richard Ahiagba criminal phenomenon. We don't want a situation where people's names are going to be written on the register. And so we have enumerated
Spain.
Yes. We have enumerated these anomalies, and we are saying that the very doctor that created the problem should not be the doctor that will resolve the problem. That is why we have referral systems in the health system. The EC must agree if the EC has nothing to hide, and we don't want to believe they have anything to hide. The EC must agree for an independent body to audit this. It has happened before. And let me speak on authority and in locus classicus that the UNDP is ready and willing to provide the support only if the Electoral Commission will write to request for this support. This is not the first time I have suggested this. At IPAC, about 2 months ago, I suggested this. The Electoral Commission will not budge. Look, development partners are interested in chipping in here and there for such an audit to take place. It is obvious, abundantly obvious, that the NDC has the capacity to assist. And we are saying that you can bring experts from the various political parties. Come along, and let's put another expert, supra, on them, for them to look at these things transparently. Nobody can complain about time. I hope nobody is going to ask me about time. This is the very Electoral Commission that even wanted to run the election in November, if you recall, until I fought it and it was retained on December 7. So nobody should complain about time. Time is not a factor here. If the Electoral Commission was ready and willing to run the election in November, it means that an election in December, they can conduct this. Time is not of essence in this matter.
After providing all of this evidence, what was the initial response?
Commission concerning this? Did they accept what was the response by the Electoral Commission? Suggestions by the NDC?
They have not accepted the independent forensic audit. Expectedly. It's not all doctors who readily refer. It's not all workers who readily, when issues are above them, refer. Some of them wait until bridges collapse. Some of them wait until patients are even at the verge of dying before they push them. We would have loved that the Electoral Commission accepted this. Unfortunately, the Electoral Commission did not. However, it doesn't take away the fact that a forensic audit is what it will take to assure Ghanaians, because we have listed these problems. Ask yourself, if the Electoral Commission could do it, how come we are seeing this level of decay in the data management? We have our own suspicions about what could lead to such dislodgement of the data. But we don't want to be judgmental at this stage. We want the forensic audit to reveal, because anybody who has ever entered the EC system electronically, okay, your logs have digital footprints that will be identified. I leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Next line of action, they've not accepted. Okay, so Dr. Amani Boama, Director of Elections for the NDC, giving us update on the outcome of that election they have just had with the Electoral Commission, pointing out a few issues concerning certain concerns they've raised, giving us some figures as to what exactly the irregularities are. I would want to take you through that a bit, especially on the specifics of the irregularities they have been talking about. First, Elton, is the fact that some transfers have been done illegally. They have been given some figures to that. First is voters in 2023 register who have been transferred but not deleted from the 2024 provisional voter register. They said the number is about 3,900. The other observation they gave is about the fact that voter transfer to different polling stations but does not exist in absent voter register over 2,000. Some over 200,000 persons have also been found, according to the NDC, whose details have been transferred illegally in the 2024 register. And so those are the key issues. Dr. Amani Boama tells us that the EC has not accepted their call for a forensic audit of the voter register. They will not disclose their next line of action, but essentially that's what they've been up to today in that meeting, Elton.
Well, thank you very much, James Aveji, live from the Electoral Commission office. The meeting between the EC and the NDC ended. According to the Director of Election with the NDC, the Electoral Commission rejected the recommendation for a forensic body or an independent body to undertake forensic audit of the voters register. According to the NDC, the Electoral Commission rejected it outright. Well, that's our show. More on this on Top Story on Joy 99.7 FM, of course, on Joy News Prime. But there's more stories on myjoyonline.com. As you can see, go there, check them out, and read them out. So that's our show for today. It's been exciting having you all week. Whatever you are up to this weekend, I hope it's profitable. My name is Elton Brobe. Have a good evening and take care.